Greetings and welcome to our daily walk through the scripture for September the 11th. Your readings today find you in Isaiah chapter 10 and chapter 11, 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verses 11 through 21, Psalm chapter 56, and Proverbs chapter 23 verses 6 through 8. Now, as you read the prophets and as we get into the books of the prophets, you're going to find that in a lot of ways it seems pretty depressing. There's a lot of judgment, a lot of wrath, a lot of those kind of things that are happening, a lot of prophecy that's going to come. It might be a little bit confusing, but generally it's going to be tough to read because it's going to be talking about judgment against his people. Now, the couple things to remember. One, this judgment, these books are taking place over the course of a few hundred years. So we need to recognize that this isn't necessarily all happening at once, but sometimes it is. In other words, sometimes these are warnings to try to get them to change well in advance. This is where God is always patient, so we need to remember that. But another aspect of these that we need to keep in mind is that they offer hope. All of these books that we read offer a hope and promise that at some point they will get to return to home. That is the promise that God keeps in Isaiah, that God tells them in Jeremiah, in Daniel, in Hosea, in all of the other prophet books, in Malachi and Micah and all these different books that you see. You're going to see hope brought. And they're going to say at some point, even though all this bad stuff is going to happen, hope will come and you will get to return home. But Isaiah also introduces something that we haven't seen before, we haven't experienced before, and that is more than just a hope of a return to home. It's the hope, the Messiah. In Isaiah chapter 11, we get this. We come a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. This chapter and these verses, they're describing the Messiah. They're describing Jesus. He is the shoot from the stump of Jesse. In other words, he's a descendant from the line of Jesse, Jesse being David's father. And so what we're reading here, allergies, is a promise that's going to be fulfilled hundreds of years later. God always keeps his promises, and he's giving them very specific things to look out for. This is one of the reasons that we as Christians can look at Jesus and make the proclamation and the statement that Jesus is the Messiah. It's because prophecies like what we see in Isaiah, prophecies like what we see in other books of Scripture, in Zechariah and all those different things, they will show us how we can know that this person is the Messiah. But this part right here, it does talk about the Messiah, but it also talks about what the Messiah is going to do eventually, and he's going to bring about ultimate peace. Verse 6, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the lion and the fatted calf together, and the little child shall lead them. This is talking about the Messiah and how the peace of the world is going to come about because of what he does. Now, obviously, Israel reads this, and they read it as something very different. And there are plenty of Jewish people today that even will make the argument of, well, it's not just one Messiah, it's multiple Messiahs. This right here is a prophecy for the Messiah. And it's going to, when he does this, when he brings his things back, he's going to bring such peace that animals that were enemies are now going to lie down together. I mean, could you imagine if a lion and a fatted calf were lying down together? My kids were watching the movie Madagascar here recently, and they were watching the lion and the zebra, okay? Alec and Marty, and at one point, Alec's wild side comes out, and he goes and he eats, or he bites his friend Marty on the butt, and because he looks like a big fat juicy steak. We know that's just a cartoon. Reality is, if you put a lion next to prey, the lion's going to eat the prey. And yet what Isaiah is saying here, and what he's promising, is that someday there will be such peace in this world that no longer will these animals be required to eat one another. They will go and they will care and they will love for one another. So it's a beautiful thing. That's our thought for the day. We'll talk more next time.